Today, we will be talking about two additional patterns of inheritance called polygenic traits and sex-linked traits. Polygenic traits are traits that are controlled by more than one gene. So, for example, the trait of skin color for humans. There's three different genes, gene A, B, and C, that are found on completely different chromosomes, chromosome 15, 16, and 21. So these traits get quite complicated, more complicated than ones that we have done in the past. Just with this example right here, skin color, there's just such a wide range of possible phenotypes that do exist in our population. So these traits are very, very complicated, and that's just because they are controlled by multiple different genes, which is why they're called polygenic traits. Make sure you're not mixing up polygenic traits with multiple alleles. So remember that multiple alleles, these are traits that are controlled by one gene that comes in multiple versions. So different alleles exist. So think about blood type, for example. There are three alleles that do exist in the population, but when you are inheriting these alleles from your parents, they're all found at the same location on the same chromosome, making it only one gene. So it's not as complicated as polygenic traits. Polygenic traits are found on different genes, on completely different locations, on different chromosomes. Could be the same chromosome, but usually different chromosomes. So they're complicated. The other type of inheritance pattern we're going to talk about will be the sex-linked traits. These are traits that are controlled by genes found on the sex chromosomes, which are the X and Y chromosomes. Remember, females are XX and males are XY. That's going to be essential to remember in order to get these questions correct. So the way that we write these genotypes for sex-linked traits is by actually superscripting, so like an exponent, superscript the letter on only the X chromosome, not the Y. If it's an allele that's found on the X chromosome, you will have it written next to the X, not the Y. So let's look at an example for this. So hemophilia is a recessive blood clotting disorder controlled by an allele, either dominant H or recessive H, found on the X chromosome. So a female without hemophilia, this means she does not have the recessive disorder. So she's dominant. She can either be homozygous dominant or heterozygous dominant. And that's how we would write her genotypes. So she is female, so she has two X chromosomes, and we're going to superscript the alleles that she has. So either X big H, or X big H, X little h. A female with hemophilia is going to be recessive, since it says this is a recessive disorder. So she would have to be X little h, X little h. And then males, they're not XX, they're XY. So a male with hemophilia has the recessive disorder. He's X little h, Y. Male without hemophilia does not have the recessive disorder, which means he's dominant. So he would be written as X big H, Y. And then again, just notice that for the males, we did not put an H on the Y because this gene is not found on the Y chromosome. So males actually only inherit one of these genes, whereas females, since they're XX, they inherit two copies of this gene. Here's another example looking at fruit flies. It says they have either red eyes or white eyes, and this trait is going to be controlled by a gene that's found on the X chromosome. Red eyes will be dominant to white eyes. So if we are trying to figure out the genotype of a male fruit fly with white eyes, we would be writing down X little r y. He's recessive. He's XY because he's a male, so that would be his genotype. A female, heterozygous for red eyes. So since she's a female, that's XX. Heterozygous, so that's going to be big R, little r. Male with red eyes. He's got the dominant eye color, X little r, Y. Female with white eyes, she's got the recessive eye color, so that means she's going to be X little r, X little r. If a female fruit fly is heterozygous for red eyes and is crossed with a male fruit fly with white eyes, what is the chance they will produce offspring with red eyes? Drag the alleles and genotypes into the correct places in the Punnett square and answer the question. So the female is heterozygous for red eyes. The male is recessive for white eyes, and we have the Y there without an R on it. We fill in the Punnett square, just like that. And the question says, what's the chance they will produce offspring with red eyes? So when we look at the Punnett square, it looks like the top row has big R's, the dominant R's, which would be causing those offspring to have the dominant red eye color. So our answer would be 2 out of 4. Color blindness is a recessive disorder that is controlled by an allele found on the X chromosome. So X big C is dominant, that's the normal vision, and then X little c recessive, that causes color blindness. A female who is a carrier for color blindness, so she's heterozygous, is crossed with a colorblind man. Complete the Punnett square by dragging the alleles and genotypes into the correct places. So it tells us she's heterozygous, so she is XX, and then she's got a big C on one X, little c on the other. The man is colorblind, so he has to be X little cy. We fill in our Punnett square, and it says, out of their offspring, what's the chance that they will have a boy, a son, that's colorblind? So when we look at the Punnett square, it looks like only 1 out of 4 is a male that is colorblind. So it's going to be the bottom right corner, says X little cy. That's a male. He's recessive, which means he is colorblind. And that concludes our notes.